Healthcare is really, really, really big business. Women were excluded from clinical trials until 1993.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively, meaning that today it takes 4 times longer on average to diagnose women with the same chronic conditions as men. 51% of the global population is female. If you just consider the number of things that have been designed and built and tested almost exclusively on men, what that means for women, most of healthcare is sick care, and providers are motivated to keep you sick because that's how they
make money.
This is Sophie Smith, founder and CEO of Nabta Health, based in the UAE. She comes from a background in tech and impact-focused startups.
And over time, she noticed something a lot of women quietly go through. Getting clear answers about your health can take months, sometimes even years.
And the support offered isn't always built with women in mind. With Nabta, she's working to make women's health care easier to access, more personal, and shaped around women's real lives.
Her work is helping women get the care they need with clarity, confidence, and support that actually understands them.
We were backed exclusively by angels, by 68 angel investors across 3 funding rounds.
And the first time you told me that, it blew my 68 angels. Sophie, how do you even manage that? Welcome, friends. MENA Means Business, and because you're watching this, I'm assuming so do you. My name is Meenah Tariq, and I'm the CEO of Metric, where we've built a chief financial AI for small and medium-sized businesses across emerging markets. We're doing this podcast because we truly believe in entrepreneurship as an economic force, and we want to amplify the voices of amazing doers across the GCC who are building for this region, from this region, for the world. And today I have somebody like that with me. So one of the things that I do when I'm, setting up an intro for my guests is I also go over to their LinkedIn to see what they've said about themselves, usually in the LinkedIn About section. And it's just interesting to kind of see them from their perspective. But today, my guest, what she has written here, I wanted to read out because I was moved when I read it. There are 2 quotes that she's written here. The first one is, "The difficult is what takes a little time. The impossible is what takes a little longer." And then the second one is, "To do more for the world than the world does for you, this is success." I have with me today Sophie Smith, who I think really embodies both of these 2 quotes. But also, I really think, Sophie, at Metric, we're a really values-driven organization. We have 5 values: doing epic work, no gatekeepers, candid conversations, today you, tomorrow me, and better every day, which is a learning value. And when I think about you, I feel like you embody every single one of those values.
I may be working for the wrong company in that case.
Well, yes, we would love to have you, but I know
I am not employable. I am not employable.
No, I've seen you work and we would love to have you, but I know you're doing such important work over at Nabta, and I really want to hear all about it. But before that, what we're going to do as part of this podcast is, for anybody who's just going to watch maybe the first 3 minutes, what is something that you want them to walk away with? What is something that you want to communicate to them?
Okay, I think my greatest bugbear in entrepreneurship is that often founders and good founders aren't given the opportunity to fail extensively. Nabta was actually my 5th company in 4 years. I had 4 companies in 3 years before Nabta.
Wow.
I set up a software consulting firm in the UK. I had a doctor finding appointment booking platform in Pakistan. Then I had a software development agency that designed applications for third parties. Then I set up a plastic recycling company in Sierra Leone that does waste plastics to roads. And then I moved here in September 2016, newly married, newly pregnant, and completely by accident founded Nabta. But the instant I started work on it, I knew it was the company that I wanted to build. And having these other companies had not been about having a lot of businesses in quick succession, but rather trying to find the thing that I actually cared about.
Yeah.
But so much of my conviction around Nabta today is because I had those other businesses. And actually, I had one really kind of prescient conversation with a totally random guy that I met at Web Summit in Ireland in 2014 when I was pitching something we were thinking about with my very first company. And it was at a networking event after the first or second day of the summit. And I was talking to him and he suddenly goes, "Let me stop you there." I was like, okay. He was like, "Sophie, I'm sure you're going to end up being very successful at whatever it is that you do in life, but this is not it." And it really took me aback, because when you are in the business that you're in, you think it's the business. Like I was convinced
think this is it.
Yeah.
It's like relationships. When you're in a relationship, you think this is my person. This is it.
Yes. That could become a whole other conversation, but let's not go down that route. So, and he was like, I was like, what do you mean this isn't it? He was like, this is not the company or this is not the thing that you are meant to be building. He's like, when you find whatever it is that you're meant to be building, you'll know. And I never saw him again, never spoke to him again.
Wow.
I was kind of insulted.
Yeah.
Or definitely taken aback. You know, how on earth did he know what it was that I was meant to be building? He had said, when I pushed him a little bit for an explanation, he was like, you don't want it enough. And that's
but you'd be like, how
well.
does this person know that I don't want it enough? Like, how?
And I thought, well, I know I want to have a family and I want to spend time with them, and they will always be a priority, you know, alongside, ahead of any future businesses. Does that mean I'm never going to want it, whatever it is, enough? And then about 6 months into Nabta, this conversation came back to me, and I suddenly understood what he had meant. Because when you find the business that you're meant to build, especially, and I think probably you have to have had other businesses in the past, you will know, because in the quiet moments when you could be doing anything, thinking about anything, when you have the option to have a lie-in or go to bed early or do something for yourself in the middle of the day, you're in the car, in the shower, the thing that you're thinking about is your business. And you can pitch it tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times. And for totally unfathomable reasons, you never get fed up of hearing the same words come out of your own mouth. Like when you get to that point, you know that's the business that is for you. And if you're wired to build, I think as I am, and the building was never in question, it's just like, what are you going to aim yourself at? How can you be sure it's the right thing? When you get to that point, the peace that comes with it, the peace to kind of take on and navigate all of these crazy obstacles that are thrown at you, keeps you going. Like, I know Nabta is the company I'm meant to be building. I know Nabta as a company is meant to exist. It's just like the business fundamentals are solid. It's just a matter of convincing everyone else as well.
So why do you believe that Nabta is a company that is meant to exist and that you are meant to be built? What is your why? What is your cause?
Okay, so there are two parts to that question, and then there's the question about business fundamentals. I'll do my why in a second. On the business fundamental side, we know that the target market exists. This is kind of incontrovertible. So women were excluded from clinical trials until 1993.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively, meaning that today it takes 4 times longer on average to diagnose women with the same chronic conditions as men, even though they're twice as likely to see a doctor in the first place. We know that 80% of all animal studies today still only involve male test subjects. Often these
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if female test subjects are involved, often they've had their ovaries removed, like in mice. Often they only study them for the first 9 days in their cycle. With mice actually reabsorb the lining of their uteruses. They don't actually shed them. So like within the female test subjects that are included, there are lots of things that prevent them from functioning as normal females. And the reason for that is we are more hormonally complex than men. Our cycles are, as women are 28, 31 days on average, but can be shorter and longer than that. Whereas men have quite a neat 24-hour hormonal cycle. And so it's difficult to get clean results by kind of science's standard definition in women. And 51% of the global population is female. If you just consider the number of things that have been designed and built and tested almost exclusively on men, and what that means for women, and what that means as a market opportunity for companies that want to do things differently, it is vast. In a study that was done by FemTech Focus and Crunchbase a few years ago, they estimated the untapped size of the women's health market to be about $1.186 trillion US, but probably it's larger than that.
Yeah. So like you said, the size of the market and the criticality of the problem, I don't think anybody can...
No. Yeah. And then if you take, as Nabta, So we have an AI-powered, vertically integrated ecosystem for women's health in the Middle East and Africa, combining hybrid care, so that's traditional care, and culturally attuned design to deliver preventative care at scale to women. So if you take prevention, which is another critical aspect of the model that we have, that again is kind of incontrovertible as a way to improve health outcomes and enhance lifespan and health span. So that's the quality of life in populations where preventative care can be accessed. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month at the moment. So to give some breast cancer related stats, 80% of breast cancers in the Middle East and North Africa are diagnosed at stage 4, which has a 27% 5-year survival rate versus 99% at stage 1. 80% of breast cancers in the UK are diagnosed at stage 1.
Yeah.
The difference is kind of comprehensive private and public sector-led preventative care. If you miss your first mammogram, age 40, you're 40% more likely to die with breast cancer just because you missed that first mammogram.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, there's, again, in terms of the benefits of proactively managing your own health, those also can't be disputed. So you take prevention as a kind of concept, target the untargeted, excluded population, probably the most excluded population in the world, women of Middle Eastern and African origin. There's a business case there.
Yeah.
And then for us, it's been about figuring out how to make it work in a financially sustainable way.
So if I can just ask a little bit of a question on, so I understand the business case, and like you said, the target segment and the criticality that's not, nobody can question it. Is the business case VC investable? And how?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer this and then tell you about my why?
Yes. I mean, whatever you want. If you want to talk about, let's talk about your why first, and then let's go into the kind of fundraising side of things.
We can do the why later. I will leave it as an open tab in my head. On VC investable, I think it's a good question. Are most of the businesses that are being built today VC investable?
No. Okay, sorry, can I just add a little bit of why I'm asking this question in particular? So this morning when I was driving here, and I actually asked Omar this question, who was in the car with me, and also my co-founder, I was trying to remember if I've invested in a health tech, because I was a VC before. And I realized that I don't have a health tech that I've invested in, even though I've had a lot of friends who were health tech founders. And when I was on the accelerator side, I worked a lot with health tech founders, and they're some of my, I really believe in their companies. I believe in them. Amazing founders, phenomenal. But we never ended up investing in them. And the reason that we didn't end up investing in them, and I was thinking back to those conversations, was that there would be some gap between where the company was and what kind of VC returns were expected from them. And even though the health sector is so broken in so many countries, we really haven't seen overall like massive VC invested success stories in emerging markets, which is a problem.
Yeah, so I think it's like if you look at the models that have come out of the US and done very well, the One Medicals of this world, or like in our sector, Maven Clinic raised $492 million, now valued at $1.3 billion US.
And there would be a close comparable to Maven, what you're building at
so
Nabta.
Maven is a virtual healthcare provider.
Okay.
They're not a hybrid provider. They don't have their own clinical facilities, which for us is important because it means that we have the ability to control and improve health outcomes. If you are aggregating the care provided by traditional care providers, you can direct to people who have good reviews. You can make the care potentially more affordable, but can you actually fundamentally alter beyond access outcomes? Not necessarily. In places like the US, they're building for convenience, not need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've seen companies in other sectors do phenomenally well in the Middle East and Africa where they built for need. M-Pesa is a really good example. So at Nabta, we would love to be for women's health what M-Pesa was for banking, bringing women into the system as a starting point through affordable, mobile-first subscription-based access. Because the big problem we have today is that people sit outside the system. You know, you can, if you are in almost any country in Africa, not have insurance and not access any kind of preventative care. 87% of women in the region are uninsured. Only 10% see any kind of medical professional on a yearly basis. There's a lot of stuff that is missed, and you can see this in terms of the lifespan and health span of individuals as well, how much of their life they spend in good versus ill health.
Yeah.
So
to be VC investable, then you're delivering your service at scale.
yes,
And
you need to
you've
deliver
cracked
at
the code on
scale.
this.
You need, but I mean, it's like a SaaS play, but with an infrastructure piece, which doesn't also need to be massively CapEx intensive.
Yeah.
There are ways to work with existing clinics. So our plan to expand our clinical footprint is through a franchise style model.
Okay.
Find
Which
good
makes it scalable.
local founders, move into a co-operating model. So we add our hybrid layer, add our B2B facing layer over the top, integrate our tech stack, charge a revenue share. So they get a broader footprint to a broader practitioner base for the same clinic. Revenues go up. We take a slice of that, but we don't need to buy our own clinics. We don't need to invest heavily into expensive medical equipment. We can scale in a very CapEx light way. And actually that's a nice thing because it means that we can support local founders of medical facilities who retain ownership and control. And particularly when we get into parts of kind of low and middle income countries in the region, that's something that's important to us. Like we want to build the wealth of local populations. We don't want to be taking away from it.
Yeah.
So do I think we've cracked the code on it? No, but I think we spent 6 years in R&D, first 15 months exclusively in a kind of discovery phase. And I think we have looked at things that have worked, not just within healthcare, but in different sectors to engage and really empower local populations to scale businesses where perhaps the original idea did not originate in that country. And yeah, I'm open to proving that we're right.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I've seen how Nabta operates, and because you're also a Metric user, so we're closely connected that way, and we're also going into a partnership, which maybe we'll talk about towards the end of this. But we believe in your model. So the reason I'm trying to push is because I want you to explain this model to everybody who's watching, because I do believe that there is. What I used to see, even back as a VC, was that anytime that you would get a health tech startup in, a lot of people would kind of just shut it down with oh, this is impact focused. And because they see the impact first, they will kind of push them towards impact focused funds or impact focused.
Which is crazy. If you look at the top companies around the world in the FTSE 100, a significant percentage of them outside of pure tech, the tech industry, are healthcare and life sciences companies. The big pharmaceutical providers, the big healthcare providers. Healthcare traditionally, I mean, everybody needs access
it's
to
business.
care. It's a massive business.
And we all complain about it, right? So the thing is, people will complain about how hospitals are money-making businesses and how, big pharma is doing this and pharmaceutical companies are money makers and that's why they're doing. But then health techs are impact.
Yeah.
When we look at health techs, we don't think, oh, these are money-making businesses. They're going to make me rich as an investor. But when you look at hospitals and big pharma, that's exactly what you think.
That's exactly what they do. And you've got the ability to actually make more money because, we aren't limited by the occupancy rate of a certain number of rooms. We can think outside our physical footprint, which a lot of traditional healthcare providers can't do. So, you calculate your revenues based on a percentage occupancy rate of every consultation room and operating theatre that you have within your facility. Yeah. And still with that limited footprint, a significant percentage of the providers in the UAE are operating, 50% EBITDA. The margins are insane. Yeah. Healthcare is really, really, really big business. Yeah. And just because we say we want to provide affordable access to care at scale, it doesn't mean that it's any less of a big business. It could in fact be bigger.
Yeah.
I think the problem with so the venture capital ecosystem in general.
Yes, let's talk about that. Because I just want to, before you tell me what you think the problem is, I would get as one of the very few women in VC in Pakistan back then, the men partners, other partners in other VC funds would send impact businesses to me. Because even though my fund was not an impact fund, but they would literally, because they wouldn't want to say no directly to somebody, they'd be like, oh, let me just connect you to somebody who I think would be a great fit, even though I was not an impact fund. And they would do the same with women founders. If they wouldn't want to say no to a woman founder, they would just send the woman founder to the women VCs, even though we were not exclusively investing in women per se.
Which is
so
a bit nuts.
one of the problems with VCs. Okay,
Yes,
tell
I
me
can
yours.
See, I said something there that has potentially opened a giant can of worms.
Which is always fun.
Yeah, which is
let's
always
talk about the
fun.
can of worms.
Oh boy. So with VCs in the region, we don't have enough specialized health tech VCs. We in fact have two. We have TVM Capital, which invests later stage in more of a PE VC model and is now exclusively focused on Saudi. They're raising their fourth fund at the moment.
Okay.
Then we have Hikma Ventures, which is the venture arm of Hikma Pharmaceuticals, but it mostly does investments in FDI, so foreign direct investments, companies that aren't headquartered in the region. Then you have generalist funds that invest across multiple different sectors. Maybe it's a couple, sometimes fintech, health tech, maybe it's broader. But the problem with that is healthcare is one of these areas where you really, really need deep subject matter expertise because it's incredibly convoluted and complicated. You have, and from an outsider's perspective, everybody should want people to live longer, healthier, happier lives.
Yeah.
But that isn't the case. Most of healthcare is sick care, and providers are motivated to keep you sick because that's how they
make money. Because they're money-making businesses.
That's how they generate retention because they're money-making businesses. Pharmaceuticals, arguably similar. So there are lots of different competing interests. The payment mechanisms is not straightforward. You have, from a regulatory standpoint, it's also incredibly complicated. And so to understand, even for us now, what it means to be a company that is fully licensed and regulated with DHA, despite having very minimal funding, all things considered, that is partnered with multiple categories of incumbent across the market, that has insurance providers as payors, that the stickiness that this creates within a company, if you're sat outside the space, potentially isn't understood because in other sectors it's much easier to form these kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
And so just on that. So what are the big numbers what are the big milestones that Nabta has been able to hit so far, which are like So we're impaneled with 42 insurance providers just for our clinic.
42.
Cigna is a client of ours. We are partnered with Bupa. We have contractual agreements with Allianz Nextcare. We have a big partnership that we're announcing towards the back end of this week with a government institution. And these things take time.
Yeah.
We have a research institute or really initiative that we've established in partnership with Princess Noura University in Saudi that now has 17 research projects pipelined or in progress. We've completed 2. We just submitted IRB approval for a study looking at the prevalence of autoimmune diseases in up to 2 million women in Saudi. Again, these are studies, this is thought leadership that has not been done before.
And
in
these
this
are
region.
relationships that take effort and time.
Yeah.
What about the user side?
From a user perspective, we're starting to get, they're results that we expected, and they will get better, but already we have 4 times the regional screening average. So if 10% of women in the region access preventative care, 40.4% of our users complete comprehensive preventative screening, 96.9% of users get a new or revised diagnosis, suggesting that a lot of stuff is being missed or overlooked with the kind of established system. We're very affordable, as a model. So I don't know, we've got, from a statistics perspective, we're pretty good. And again, it's only going to get better. We have an entirely kind of novel sovereignty assessment and architecture that we use to, from a female-focused perspective, determine quality of life and control that one feels and actually has over one's own health.
Yeah.
Equivalent metrics in the market are things like PREM or PROMIS or the World Health Organization Quality of Life Index, but ours has been designed for women.
Yeah.
So we've just got a lot of interesting things.
Oh, that's amazing. So has this interest or have all these interesting things translated into investor interest for you? Because we started talking about the problem with VCs, and I think what you were saying was that they don't a lot of times have sector knowledge for health, which is maybe one of the reasons why they end up ignoring it.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, that's, again, from a VC perspective, that should be a very lazy excuse, because how difficult it is for me to pull my friend Sophie Smith and get her to help me in evaluating this health tech that I want to invest into. And all of us have networks, and that's what we do for other deals as well. I don't have sector expert, and VCs are generally generalists, right? So we don't have sector expertise in a lot of areas that we invest in, but we get to know them.
Yeah.
So why not health? Why is health missing out?
I don't know. I think in general, the return on investment is probably longer than the 10-year lifetime of a single fund, especially if you have any kind of research and development that you want to do. You know, we were 6 years in R&D. What are we now? We're 8.5 years old. We'll probably do our first price round this year or next year. But then even with that, like the next round after that, or if we end up doing an IPO, you're already outside your kind of 10-year lifetime. Yeah. So if we would never have been able to raise venture capital funding in the early stages of Nabta's life. But you could argue that, again, if there were proper grant funding mechanisms in place, we wouldn't have needed to. So during R&D, and as we came out of R&D, and started to commercialize and get our product market fit, we were backed exclusively by angels, by 68 angel investors across 3 funding rounds.
And the first time you told me that, it blew my 68 angels. Sophie, how do you even manage that? Because that, to me, I mean, we don't have anywhere near that number, but those are all individual relationships that you cultivate and nurture, and these are all people that are on this journey. And I remember when you were telling me about your angels, you actually knew, oh, this person has just moved, so this person's going through something in their life. You knew what was going on in their lives. You were connected to them. How do you do this?
I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people.
We all just have 24 hours, and you also have 4 kids. How do you manage to do this?
I think, again, like need trumps convenience, right? I knew that for the first how many years of Nabta's life, it was about survival to a point where the people who wanted proof over potential were able to get it. Mm-hmm. You know, I have never doubted the potential of Nabta as a company building in a space largely untapped. But again, we were the first women's health technology company in the Arab world. We were a category creator. We have built the ecosystem up around us. And there's a lot to be said for first mover advantage, but it is slower. And I think you have to work a lot harder because people don't have the comfort that a thing like you exists and they've seen something like you before and they've backed something like you before. And so they're okay doing it a second time.
Yeah. It's easier to be a Me Too company sometimes. Yeah. Because people know or at least they've decided what they can expect from you. So they just assume that it's going to be the same pattern. It's pattern recognition.
And we're a different market also to places where things that look a little bit like us are established. The UAE is not a B2C healthcare market. There is a very weird kind of reality here where people will pay a fortune for all things wellness. For aesthetic procedures, for gym memberships, for ice plunges and steam rooms and high rocks and all of this. But if it's healthcare, they expect it to be covered by insurance. And so it's very, very difficult. And we've watched, half a dozen companies kind of drop by the wayside since we've been around because the B2C market is tough. Yeah. So you have to go B2B, which is something that, again, if you are focused on prevention or flip side of that coin, longevity, you really want to be selling directly to the user because they are most motivated by the reduction in cost and the improvement in outcomes. So selling B2B adds a level of difficulty because you're trying to convince someone who isn't actually the
who
end
has their own
user,
agendas, who might have their own perspectives,
who already, are paying a fortune in health insurance because it's a mandated benefit. A lot of insurance providers don't offer options to pay monthly, so it's a massive bill that you will fork out once a year for your entire employee base, and the last thing they want to do is add to that.
Yeah.
Even if it means that over time, the number and the cost of claims and the cost of their premiums by extension might come down. So
it's a harder sell, and it's a longer sales cycle.
It's a longer sales cycle. You have to take people on a journey. I think we're getting better at that.
Yeah. What is a high for you on this journey so far, Sophie? What is something that, over the last few years, you're like, that was such a great moment. I loved that.
Do you know, the longer that it goes on, the more I'm convinced that these are not things that you record as highs per se. Like, they are tiny moments that mean nothing to anyone other than you on a daily basis. Like, still, if I think back over 8.5 years, one of the most extraordinary highs I got was in the car park of the building where we used to live in JLT, where at some point after nursery, like, I collected my son. He must have been about 6 months old, or 5 or 6 months old. He was just getting to that point where he started to show affection. I took him out of the car and he put his arms around my neck. And I just remember in that moment in this hot car park, like it was at a point of year where, you blink and you can feel the heat in your eyelids.
Yes.
I was just like, I was completely happy, like perfectly happy. And that's a high that stood out. It has nothing to do with Nabta, nothing to do with anything or anyone. And within the context of Nabta, it's little things like that. It's the odd message that you get from members of your team. It's when a day that you're expecting to be really difficult suddenly isn't, or you get like an email about something that's nice. It's actually not the plaudits or the partnerships or the things that people expect to be big, like eureka moments. It's not those. It's all the little tiny things.
Yeah. And do you have any advice on how to get through the hard parts? Because, okay, so I see Sophie as somebody who is probably amongst the most emotionally regulated founders that I know, because every time there's something going wrong and I'm just blowing up, Sophie's like, yeah, it's okay. This is not the worst that I've seen. It's fine. Like, you've seen worse than this. How can anybody see worse than this? I literally, we were having a recent conversation. I was so angry the whole night. And you're just like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It happens. So I was like, I need to learn from Sophie. How is she this zen? Because I think 3.5 years in, my hair has gone white. 3 of my organ systems have issues as per my last checkup. And every doctor I go to says, reduce stress. And that's the one thing that I have challenged doing. So how have you, and again, I have 1 kid, you have 4. And I understand even with my 1, what impact that can have on your stress levels some days as well. And your happiness levels as well, but also your stress levels.
Apparently, fun fact, parents of 4 kids are among the most relaxed.
Really?
Yes. Because 1 child is tough, as in it is intense. I still remember with my first, you are their only source of entertainment. It is all on you.
That is correct. That's my second job.
Meenah says with a long, hard stare.
That is my second job, entertaining Mirana. It takes up a lot of my time.
Yeah, whereas as soon as you have others, like they are my first entertainment system. And then at some point, it can become utterly chaotic. And when they are all crying or all fighting at the same time, I'm someone who gets overstimulated quite easily.
Yeah.
Like, your nervous system is just shot at different points in the day. But I know this about myself now. So for example, if I have had a really, really overstimulating day anyway, and then I come back and they are just bickering, often, like, I'll make them dinner, I'll feed them dinner, but then I'll leave them downstairs with our nanny while they eat. And I will go upstairs and in total peace and quiet for 10 minutes, I will draw the curtains, I will turn the lights down to low, I will run the bath, and I will pretend that no one in the world exists. And this will be like the 10 minutes of self-regulation
meditation
I get before like bath and bedtime routine starts up.
Yeah.
And I think you just build lots of these into your day. My life improved significantly in terms of bodily warnings when I changed my sleep-wake cycle at the start of the year. So probably over the last 3 or 4 years, I have had various moments where I've had what I would describe as like autoimmune warnings. So a day where suddenly everything was too bright and I couldn't like look at the daylight at all, and I had to spend 24 hours in a dark room. The day after my sister's wedding where I got shingles. Like there were various moments where like you can feel your body being like, you are pushing me.
Knock, knock, something's
hard.
going on. Yeah.
You know, all of that stress that people say you don't have, it's all going inwards. Please stop it.
Yeah.
We're not coping very well. I had a moment actually before the summer where my iron levels were super low, but I ended up collapsing and was then in ER. These things still happen. But for me, so I used to get up with the kids kind of around like 6:30, do breakfast with them, take them to school, and then I would work until I collected them around 3:30, 4:30. I'd be with them until they went to bed, and then I would go out to the mall and I would work there until it shut at midnight. Or I would have meetings and things in the evening. I don't do that anymore. I get up 45 minutes early at 5:45. I exercise, and like I'm up and downstairs before the children are awake. It's like I don't exist. I'm a phantom mother. And I go out and I do some circuits and I have my breakfast, and then at which point I've already like stabilized my cortisol levels, which peak about an hour after you wake up. I go and bring them down. The rest of the day runs the same until their bedtime. But now instead of working to midnight, I work another 90 minutes, 2 hours tops, and I'm in bed pretty reliably by 9:30, 10. And
that sounds like a very healthy,
life.
that sounds like a very healthy routine. That's something we should all aspire to, especially me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that you glorify hard work for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But you're aware, as you pointed out, that you have 24 hours in the day. And especially when you look at the statistical likelihood of your success from a fundraising perspective, from a scaling perspective, just from a kind of business growth perspective, and you're like, I need more hours.
But you used the phrase glorifying hard work. I really do think that nowadays we're seeing this wave of glorifying not just hard work, but almost insane levels of stress that founders are expected to give to themselves by sometimes other founders, sometimes by, and you'll see LinkedIn posts about this all the time.
This is one of the things
some
the
investors
VC
as well.
Model encourages, because VCs have a timeline. So they need you to get to where they want you to go in 10 years, depending on when they deploy. Perhaps,
but do they want me to die in year 6? Because then all of their money dies. Also.
I have spoken to VCs.
And they're okay with that?
Who have said, we are suspicious if, members of startups are still with a startup after 3 years because we would expect them to be burnt out.
Wow. That has to be amongst the most toxic things I've ever heard. And whoever was the VC that said this, I really doubt kind of that they understand anything that they're talking about, because that in itself is, or they come from, or they've grown up coming from very toxic environments themselves, and that's all they've seen and that's what they believe works. But
yeah, but again, it depends. What are you building for? I mean, I think...
and who? If you think your employees are so expendable, Sophie, that you need to push them for 3 years until they completely burn out, and then you're fine with them kind of... It's like, what are they? Are they some like ink cartridge in your printer that you're using and then you would just throw away and replace? These are human beings.
They're human beings. And again, one of the beautiful things is in building a business is working with like the opportunity as a founder to employ people, to give people jobs and livelihoods.
One of the biggest blessings of my life is the people that have come in through Metric, and I've seen them grow, and some of them have left and some of them are with me, and they are I think they are the legacy that we're going to leave in this world.
Yeah.
These people who go out and do great things.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I don't know. It's totally against my nature to walk all over people for the sake of getting somewhere. Roads are not paved with people.
No, not at all.
Paving
and shouldn't
stones
be
for a reason.
Shouldn't be. And I think we've at Metric been very lucky. We've had amazing investors who've actually told us to go on vacation. They're like, a week off, 2 weeks off, you need to go lie down on the beach somewhere. Don't take your laptop. Don't work at all. You need to relax. And a lot of them are women, actually, women investors who've been so supportive. A lot of men as well, but I think, yeah, we've been really lucky. And I think it can make or break your startup, the kind of investor that you bring on board. And if you bring somebody like that guy on board, it's going to change the trajectory of the kind of business that you build, right?
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. I think the thing that people also don't necessarily acknowledge is that long hours do not equal smart working.
Absolutely.
As human beings, we have a certain amount of processing power, and so much of our intelligence rests on like giving ourselves time to form meaningful connections between the things that we have absorbed, whether it's relationships with people or information that we're passing. And our brains need time to do that, where we're not flooding them with more information. And so you don't make your smart decisions because you're working. You make your smartest decisions because you rest. And so even from a kind of computational power perspective, it is important for human beings that we build in rest and thinking time.
Yeah.
And especially for founders and executive teams who are, making a huge number of very big decisions in the context of the company, often with only like 60 to 70% of the knowledge required to do so.
Yeah. And also build in time for the other pieces of our lives.
Yeah.
Those are, I see those LinkedIn posts about missing kids' events for the sake of your startup. And I feel a little bit sad because I am genuinely thinking, I'm not judging those people for doing what they need to do, but I'm thinking, what kind of ecosystem do we end up creating if that's what we expect every single person to be doing? Because not everybody's going to have the same kind of privileges that maybe I do or you do or somebody else does, and they won't be able to make the same choices. No. So then we create this ecosystem where then roads are supposed to be paved with humans, sometimes our families, sometimes our kids.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I think we're over time. I still have like 10 questions that I had written down that I wanted to talk to you about. I think we need to do maybe a part 2 of this conversation. Thank you for coming. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And like I said, I do genuinely think that Sophie is top 1% in terms of founders that I've met, whether I look at her from a VC perspective, whether I look at you from a startup that kind of looks up to you as a founder. I think you're doing amazing. And I expect you to be doing even greater things when it comes to Nabta and your trajectory and your growth. But thank you so much for sharing your time and your journey with us.
Thank you.